Good day, and thank you for joining on this beautifully rainy day for today's wildfire update. I'm Heather Fairbairn, and I'll be your moderator. Once again, we're joined by a cast of folks who will provide an update on the response, and I want to thank each one of them for making time to share what they know with Nova Scotians. Providing remarks today, we have Premier Tim Houston, Warden Penny Smith from the municipality of the District of Shelburne, Warden Eddie Nickerson from the municipality of the District of Barrington. And we have our friends from the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. Joining us today, we have Jim Rutterham, Director of Fleet and Forest Protection. And of course, familiar faces, we have Dave Rockwood, Public Information Officer, who will provide an update on the Shelburne event. And of course, Dave Steeves, Public Information Officer, who will provide an update on the 10 Talent event. Also joining us today from the Canadian Red Cross, Bill Lawler, Atlantic Director of Government and Strategic Relations, will provide an update. And finally, we'll get a weather update from our resident warning preparedness meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada, Bob Robichaud. Also joining us for the Q&A portion, we have Erica Fleck, Director of Emergency Management with the Halifax Regional Municipality. And with that, allow me to introduce the Honourable Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia. Take it away, Premier.
Thank you, Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. We're down to 5 active fires in the province. That number was 10 this morning. 1 out of control fire. That number was 3 this morning. So this is good news, but the 1 out of control fire is the biggest fire in the history of Nova Scotia, and it still remains scary. I'm in Barrington right now. I was in Shelburne this morning. I would say yesterday was rough here, but in speaking with Nolan Young and Minister LeBlanc and the folks at the Comfort Center and the team here in Barrington this morning, I can tell you that the rain is lifting spirits. I can't say enough about the folks keeping the comfort centers going. A huge thank you to everyone keeping those comfort centers going. Many of the people that I saw in those comfort centers, working in those comfort centers, volunteering in those comfort centers a couple of days ago, still there right now. So thank you for keeping the comfort centers going. A huge thank you to everyone who has picked up a hose, done a wellness check on your friends and neighbors, folks. Showed up with baked goods for neighbors. George was in here with pizzas here in Barrington. Anyone who's made any kind of donations, thank you so much. To all those that took the time to say kind words to the wonderful firefighters who are laying it on the line nonstop, thank you so much. There's a number of signs heading into the into Shelburne with on lampposts with messages for firefighters. Thank you so much. I know it means an incredible amount. Thank you to all Nova Scotians for their selfless personal sacrifice during this time. It all matters. We are working through this horrific week. Then I'll tell you, there was some cautious optimism from the team at my briefing this morning. And if you step outside, you will see something beautiful, rain, and hopefully lots of it. If you look at the forecast, there's potential for a lot of rain. So Bob will hopefully keep our spirits up with the forecast here a bit later. But I just want to say to Nova Scotians too that it is raining right now. That doesn't mean you can burn. The grounds are still very dry. The burn bans remain in effect. So I'll repeat that for good measure. Do not burn. We're trying to get through the situation here now, and I just ask Nova Scotians to continue to respect the burn ban. Stay out of the woods. Do everything you can to mitigate the risk. We've been through a lot in the last week. We want to mitigate risk in every way we can. Over the next couple of hours, the team will review the evacuation orders and determine if they can safely make any recommendations to municipalities to lift any of those bans. They're constantly reviewing that. I know there's a lot of people that are really, really anxious to get back to their homes, but stay out of those areas. The team is looking at that. We understand the urgency. Once it's deemed safe from a fire perspective, and the recommendation is made to municipality, there's also other steps to take to make sure it's just safe from other dangers after, so just be patient. But yesterday there was some evacuation orders that were lifted. If it's possible to make any changes, those will be made. I absolutely assure you of that. There's also a major focus on identifying property damage and particularly homes and cottages and structures that have been lost, and informing homeowners. So thank you for your patience on that. I want you to know that there's a lot of work being done on that. We want to get that information to you, and we want people to return to their homes. The team is also looking at the school situation. I can tell you that all schools in Shelburne County will be closed on Monday and Tuesday. All schools in Shelburne County will be closed on Monday and Tuesday. They will make further efforts to assess the school availability for the rest of the week, and updating again. That'll happen over the next couple of days, and certainly in the week or early in the week. But the region has a support plan in place. Right now, the focus will be on supporting students and staff with counselors, crisis teams. We're connecting with the IWK and health teams from across the province for input and advice. And those resources are mobilizing, but no school Monday and Tuesday. Once again, I just want to say thank you to everyone for your patience. It's been an incredible period here in Nova Scotia, for sure. As a government, we want to do what's right and do what we can to support Nova Scotians through this. If there was ever a time for government to do its part, that time is now. So I assure you that's the mindset with which we're approaching this. But thank you for all the incredible resources that have stepped up and went out and fought fires and helped their friends and neighbors. People helping people is what this province is all about. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you for that, Premier. And now we'll go to Warden Penny Smith with the Municipality of the District of Shelburne. Go ahead, Warden.
Thank you so much. I would like to start by expressing again our sincerest thank you to the firefighters, contractors, businesses, community members, and community organizations for everything you have done this week and continue to do. Our communities in Shelburne and Barrington areas are forever grateful for your efforts. We must continue to support one another and follow directives to keep everyone safe. This is a large-scale operation. We are working collectively with federal, provincial, and municipal governments in a coordinated fashion to address these wildfires, support evacuees, and provide timely information to community members and those most impacted. The rain today and the forecast over the next few days make us cautiously optimistic that firefighting crews will get control of these fires. Last evening, during a late supper at the Birchtown Community Center, it was the first time that I heard optimism in the firefighters' voices. And as the last ones were leaving around 10 o'clock or so to drive back home, we went outside and felt the first raindrops. I'm sure, like many of you, it has been a long time, and I've been this happy to see so much rain. We know that our residents want to know the status of their homes and properties in the evacuated areas. Personnel with the province are working to assess the status of properties and infrastructure in the impacted areas. We want you to have this information as soon as possible, but it does take time and it needs to be done with safety as a top priority. We will be communicating with property owners in the impacted areas as soon as we have the assessment information. It is vital that until an evacuation order is lifted, everyone must stay out of the evacuation zones to allow our firefighters and frontline resources to do their jobs swiftly and safely. If you have been evacuated, please register with the Canadian Red Cross. As I stated yesterday, registration ensures people can be contacted while away from home and can be reached with information on services and assistance that may become available to them during this difficult time. For those of you who have been evacuated, we know that this can be a deeply traumatic time for you and your loved ones, but please know that we will continue to work together as a community to support you today and as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Warden. We'll now go to Warden Eddie Nickerson with the Municipality of the District of Barrington. Go ahead, Warden.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Premier Houston, Warden Smith. Thank you, Premier, for coming to Barrington. First, I would like to express that my thoughts and thanks are with everyone in the community. These are challenging times, and we appreciate everyone's understanding and patience. The efforts of everyone involved, from residents and local organizations to heavy equipment operators, frontline firefighters, are having a tremendous impact on our current situation. These efforts have resulted in no loss of life or serious injury during what is the largest wildfire in Nova Scotia's history. The last fire updates and the rain have us cautiously optimistic that we're getting the upper hands on these wildfires. But to be clear, these fires are still not contained, and everyone in our community should be prepared to evacuate, follow evacuation orders, and stay out of the evacuated areas. To those from our communities who have been evacuated, there are several accommodations and resources available for you during this difficult time. Comfort centers are located at the Shelburne Community Center in Shelburne, the Sandy Wickens Memorial Arena in Barrington, and the Yarmouth Fire Hall in Yarmouth. Free stores with emergency items and supplies are opened at 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. daily at the arena in Barrington and the Shelburne Community Center. We have a strong and supportive community who are eager to support those in need. Unfortunately, we have been made aware of people receiving calls and emails asking them to financially donate and support those impacted by wildfires. While people are eager to help those in need, please be alert to scams. It is best to make sure you are contributing to a credible organization that will provide funds and support to those in need. The Canadian Red Cross has established the Nova Scotia Atlantic Canadian Fires Appeal. You can financially support this appeal by donating directly to Canadian Red Cross or the Coastal Financial Credit Union or other credit unions. More opportunities for financial donations will likely arise in the coming days, and we will be sure to communicate those opportunities in the days ahead. To emphasize something that Warden Smith said, residents and community members who have evacuated must keep out of the evacuated zones unless told otherwise by local authorities. Please let firefighters do their job. We understand residents are worried about their homes and properties, and while we have confirmed that some structures, including homes, have been destroyed and some are still threatened, there are no firm details on numbers as of yet. Right now, the main priority is the safety of residents and fire crews. Updates will be forthcoming, and once we have that information from the assessors. To keep in the know with immediate up-to-date information, please refer to the Barrington and Town of Clark's Harbor's Emergency Management Organization's Facebook, and you can also see those updates in the Shelburne County East Emergency Management Facebook page and the Government of Nova Scotia's Emergency Alerts webpage. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Warden. Now we'll move along to Jim Rutherham, Director of Fleet and Forest Protection with the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. Go ahead, Jim. Jim? I know he was there.
There, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everybody. I had a long update prepared, and then the crews and the weather put a bunch of fires out. So now I don't have as much to say. I will leave the updates to the major complexes to Dave and Dave. I was going to talk about weather, but Bob is here, so I won't talk about that. But so far, we've had 210 fires this season, totaling 26,680 hectares. And it has been very abnormal, as we all know. And I just want to thank everyone for all the hard work that's been going into putting these out. And I'll let Dave and Dave take over the updates for their particular complexes.
Good news is short news, and we'll take it. Thanks for that, Jim. So moving along, we'll go to Dave Rockwood, Public Information Officer with Shelburne.
Hi, yes, good afternoon, guys. Down here in the Barrington Fire Complex, as the Premier hinted, we're very happy to announce that the Lake Fire, just south of Shelburne, as of 11 o'clock this morning, is being held. Our personnel are still on the ground. We've got 15 crew members still. They're going to be in there for another while yet, days or even till the end of the week at least or more. So they're going to be in there searching for every hot spot that they can. They're going to be using their hands, switching to what we call mop-up techniques and getting that dug out. The Pubnico fire, as of 12 noon, is also now being held. The crews down there are going to do the same. They're going to be digging in and starting to dig out every one of those final hot spots. Now with the Barrington Lake fire, it's last evening grew to 24,980 hectares. But then once the weather shifted and stopped spinning around, we ended up with that higher moisture in the area. And by 11 o'clock last night, and in between there, throughout different parts of the fire, we started to receive moisture. As of this morning, we were between 1.5 and 8 mils of moisture in over different parts. So we still have a lot of cautious optimism there, as that term has been going around today. But overnight, there was no further growth, and our crews are switched to direct tactics. So they're getting right into the thick of it today. They're trying to pound as much ground as they can, and they're using our 45 pieces of heavy iron, and they're continuing to create our dozer line and just create a nice barrier between that burning material and the unburnt material, get it right down to mineral soil. The only other thing I'd like to say is that the local SPCA, or the Nova Scotia SPCA, is in the area working alongside us, and we want to give you this number of 902-307-0475, and they have their officers tied in with our crews as well, and they're going around to help out. And I've already got a report back today. They've already been able to help a whole bunch of pigs, chickens, cats, dogs, and other animals in the area. So that's really good. It's beginning. It's been a good day today. We're having a good day. Thank you.
That's awesome news. Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Now we'll check in for an update on Tantallon with Dave Steeves. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Just a quick update before I get into the Tantallon fires. The Farmer Dairy fire is now 100% contained and considered under control. So that is some good news. Moving on to the main fire, it's still holding at 950 hectares. We do have a bit more good news. We are now at 85% containment, and our status has moved from out of control to being held. So that is a good thing. It was quite a morale boost this morning when everybody showed up and the skies really opened up around 9 o'clock. And it was the first time that I've seen that much excitement on people's faces to be in the middle of a rainstorm. So we were very grateful for that. On site today, we have 40 DNR and our firefighters, 108 staff from Halifax Fire, 9 firefighters from the Department of National Defense, and over 30 apparatus along with them. Our heavy equipment, we have 11 excavators and 3 dozers on site. We do have some air resources, but they are on an on-call basis. And obviously, with the wet weather that we've had, we've got very, very minimal, almost none fire behavior. And so our crews are able to get into the black and, as Dave alluded to earlier, really dig out those areas of concerns. They still are finding lots of ash pits and hot spots. So we're able to get in there, and the crews are wet and they're dirty, but morale is really, really high because they're seeing the fruits of their labor, and everybody's kind of on cloud 9 right now. We're feeling pretty good. So anyway, thanks.
That's awesome. Cloud 9's my favorite cloud. Let's move on to Bill Lawler, Atlantic Director of Government and Strategic Relations with Canadian Red Cross. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Heather, and good afternoon, everyone. To date, Canadian Red Cross has registered just over 7,500 households throughout the province. We estimate that we're expecting still another 500 or so households. So please, if you have not yet registered, I would encourage you to do so at your earliest opportunity. You do need to register in order to qualify for the $500 as announced by the Premier per household for those who are within the mandatory evacuation zones. It will also help us reach out to you to communicate new information and also to get a better understanding of what some of the impacts may be due to the evacuation, or once you've discovered some of the damage to your property and surrounding areas. We've also been able to distribute the $500 to 4,520 households throughout the areas of impact. So that to date, we've distributed $2.26 million to eligible households, and we're continuing to work through the remainder who have registered. If you have not received your funds just yet, we'd ask that you hold trying to contact us. We are going to be distributing these amounts each and every day, and it just means we haven't gotten to you yet, but we are going through those lists rather quickly. It's also imperative that you do not attempt to register again to advance yourself into the queue. In fact, it just congests the system and we'll have to weed out duplications. We'd rather take the time to make sure that we're providing the most direct support to those who need it the most. For those who are looking to still register, please call us at 1-800-863-6582, or even better, if you have access to the internet, at redcross.ca/Atlantic Wildfires. To date, we have raised $1.4 million for our appeal specific to these wildfires. Anyone looking to donate, you can do so by calling us at 1-800-418-1111, or simply go to our website at redcross.ca. We did notice a drop in certainly in Halifax due to, as the Premier noted, some of the rescinded evacuations in parts of the community. We did not have any overnight guests at the Canada Game Centre, and as a result, we have withdrawn our services there. There still remains other supports there, such as insurance, HRM, municipal staff, etc., are there. But in terms of ourselves, we are now located at the HRM 4 pad, and we are calling individuals who have registered who may require some further support to make sure that they do have access to that $500 per household. Throughout the other areas of the province, as the wardens had noted, the other centers for overnight shelters, we had a total of 37 individuals. So think of that for a moment, only 37 overnight, and we know that there are thousands who are still staying with host families. So special thank you to every Nova Scotian household who has taken in a family that has been displaced. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Bill. And we'll wrap up the formal part of this with hopefully some good news on the weather from Bob Robichaud. No pressure, Bob. Over to you.
Thank you, Heather. Yes, I'm happy to add to the positive news from a weather perspective. First of all, just in French, je vais faire mes commentaires en anglais, mais si il y a des questions en français, je peux certainement répondre aux questions en français. So as difficult as the fire weather conditions were earlier in the week, it would be difficult to really ask for anything more than what we're getting now, because what we're getting is exactly what the doctor ordered. Right now, we have a persistent northeasterly flow across all of Nova Scotia, bringing in much cooler air. And as everyone's noted, there is some widespread precipitation. Most of the province was actually experiencing precipitation just in the last hour. In terms of total amounts so far, here in the Halifax area, we've received in excess of 25 millimeters. Some areas in the center of the province have already exceeded 50 millimeters. So that rain is there. It is continuous. It will likely become more intermittent in the evening hours and into Sunday, but that rain will continue. Also, good news is, although there was some uncertainty in the amounts of rain that were expected into the early to mid part of the week, things are coming together, and it's looking like most of the models now are suggesting widespread areas of over 100 millimeters exactly in the areas that require it. Dave Rockwood yesterday mentioned the precipitation deficit in Western Nova Scotia. I just looked at that this morning. We were close to 180 millimeters below normal in the last 90 days in that part of the province. If we do get in excess of 100 millimeters, that will make a significant dent into that deficit. And finally, just a couple of words on air quality. with that northeasterly flow, it's moving most of the smoke now offshore. There's a small sliver along the southwestern tip of the province who may still experience some air quality issues, but for the rest of the province, that air is clearing out quite nicely. So that's it for the weather. I'll pass it back over to you, Heather.
Thank you for that, Bob, and thank you everyone for sharing your words with us. Now we'll take questions from media who are participating online. We'll stick with our one question, one follow-up format. And once again, if you could indicate who your question's for, that would be a great help. So we'll start with Blair Rhodes with CBC. Go ahead, Blair.
Hi there. I have a question for Bill Lawler. The $1.4 million fundraising appeal, is that for the fires in Nova Scotia only, or does it include the fires in New Brunswick?
Thank you for the question. We did very carefully select the name of this appeal to include areas outside of Nova Scotia. However, to be very, very clear, the predominant amount of impact has been in Nova Scotia. As you're maybe familiar with, the evacuation has been completely rescinded now in New Brunswick. In terms of the number of homes and total loss and damage, et cetera, it's significantly lower. So again, our priority and our operations, in fact, have ceased in New Brunswick. So we are here in Nova Scotia, full speed ahead. And we'll be providing support to those who have been the most impacted, without question. So again, to repeat, predominantly, this will be a Nova Scotia event.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Blair.
Yeah, my follow-up is to Bob Robichaud on the air quality issue. The formal forecast that we're seeing online from Environment Canada still lists the air quality, but if I just wanted to make clear what you're saying or just said moments ago, does that mean that the air quality warnings are going to be dropped for most of the province?
Yeah, that's currently under review right now, and we work with our partners at the province to determine some of the air quality in those areas. Also looking at some of the readings from the sensors down there. The last time I checked, it looked pretty good. So there'll probably be some updates in those warnings within the next little while.
Great. Moving on, we'll go to Morgan Lowry with Canadian Press. Go ahead, Morgan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
I wanted to know if any or how many of those $25,000 fines have been handed out so far for violating the no burn order.
Who would like to take that question?
Both in Cape Breton.
Yeah, so I don't know if Jim had some information on that, but my understanding, I don't have an exact number, Morgan. We can circulate through the different kind of agencies, but my understanding is that there's a couple around the province.
Yeah.
And Morgan, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, maybe for Mr. Rockwood about the Shelburne fire. Do we know the cause of that fire yet? Have we determined that?
No, as I stated a couple days ago in one of the pressers, once we request a investigation, that gets handed over to either the RCMP, our enforcement group, and then our fire investigation investigators come in, and between the three, they decide where that has to go. But my job and the crews here, it's to we initially preserve the evidence. So if we do find anything, if it was a case that there was some, then we preserve it, create a boundary, and then it's all passed over, and we just go back to putting the fire out.
Next, we'll go to Radio Canada with Kiera Morellen. Go ahead, Kiera.
Hi, my question is for Bob Robichaud in French, obviously. Est-ce que vous pourriez expliquer un petit peu la situation de la météo avec la pluie et ce qui est entraîné pour la qualité de l'air aussi, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, effectivement, on a une circulation du nord-est qui nous apporte des températures beaucoup plus froides aujourd'hui qu'on a vu durant les derniers jours. Les températures en après-midi, on parle de 9 à 11, 12 degrés, donc beaucoup plus froid que ce qu'on a vu. Les quantités de pluie depuis en soirée, hier soir, de 20 à 40 mm avec 50 mm qui a été vu dans le centre de la province. Donc, beaucoup beaucoup de pluie, la pluie qu'on avait besoin, et on prévoit que la pluie va continuer au cours de la nuit et dans la journée de demain et probablement même dans le début de la semaine, lundi, mardi. En total, on pourrait aller chercher des quantités de pluie, surtout dans l'ouest et dans le centre de la province, qui pourraient atteindre les 100 mm ou plus. Pour ce qui est de la qualité de l'air, avec la circulation du nord-est, ça amène le gros de la fumée au large. Donc, c'est vraiment juste une petite partie du sud-ouest de la Nouvelle-Écosse qui pourraient avoir des conditions de qualité de l'air qui pourraient être qui pourraient être pas dangereuses, mais qui seraient moins bonnes à comparer aux autres régions. La plupart des autres régions, la qualité de l'air est beaucoup mieux que ça l'était durant les derniers jours.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Kiara.
So I think my follow-up would be for Premier Houston. I'm just wondering, you said the evacuation orders were under review, seeing if more people could come in. Do you have an idea of maybe when people might get an update on those?
No, thank you for the question. And I guess the message to Nova Scotians is that there's a constant review of those, and certainly daily the teams will get together and kind of look at the status of the fire and different issues and concerns in different areas. So that meeting usually happens towards the end of the day. I think the evacuation orders that were lifted yesterday for certain parts of the downtown, they came out, I think, maybe 5 o'clock or something. So, the firefighting teams, the incident command centers, they'll look at how the day is progressing. They'll look at what's next, and then they'll see where it's safe. But that's they'll come up with a recommendation. They'll make their recommendation to the municipalities. We'll work closely with them, but that's one part of the decision, because the other part is, maybe in some situations RCMP might go through to make sure that it is truly safe, that there's nothing, tree fell somewhere or something happened. So is it safe from fires? Is it safe from other from other perspectives, and then ultimately lift it and send people back? We can only send people back when we know it's truly safe. So, but the message to Nova Scotians is that nobody's forgotten. Everybody feels the sense of urgency to return people to their homes. They do that as soon as it is possible, and it's happening on an ongoing basis, but certainly daily there's a decision made. So stay patient. Nova Scotians have been thank you for respecting the evacuation orders and staying patient, but just a little bit more patience is going to be required. But everybody feels the urgency.
And finally, we'll go to Stephen Wenzel with CTV. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you. Premier, when it comes to the dissemination of emergency alerts, there are some concerns about the frequency with which they have been issued, particularly when evacuation orders are rescinded. Is there any talk of changing the criteria for issuing emergency alerts so people don't start tuning them out?
We never want anyone to tune out an emergency alert. If the decision is made to use the emergency alert system, it is important. Never tune it out. Absolutely not. So, but in terms of, look, we've had, significant fires across the province right now. There was multiple fires at the same time. So multiple, evacuation orders. Now we're going to see lifting of them. There's a bunch to be lifted at some point in time too. So, but no, always take an emergency alert serious. It's used to relay important information to you. So always take it serious. But they're frequent right now because there's been a fast-moving situation, and it's required frequently sending information to Nova Scotians. But we'll continue to look at how that system is used. But I think we'll make sure that it's used as appropriate, and that could mean it's frequent, but that's just the way it is.
And Steve, your follow-up?
Sure. So scientists are saying they're calling this Canada's unprecedented fire season. They say it's linked to climate change, but what's more concerning is that it's expected to become the new normal. The amount of forests burned by wildfires projected to double by 2050. Premier, what have you learned from these wildfires that will help inform what you do in the future cases?
Well, listen, there'll be, we always try to learn what we can learn. The first thing I learned is the incredible resources we have from our firefighting service. It's just been, the response has really been spectacular. The next thing that I didn't, this is not a new learning, but it just confirmed to me that community spirit of people helping people. It's been remarkable across the province. But, in terms of, you mentioned climate change. Our climate is changing. The world's climate is changing. In this province, we've taken it seriously. We passed legislation with some very significant goals. We're working towards those goals. So we take the changing of the climate serious, and we just have to, as a community, recognize the risks that are around us and act appropriately.
Well, thank you. That concludes today's update. Enjoy the rain and be safe.